Hello everyone, friends. Thank you for visiting Bitcoin Adept. Today we will talk about the price of Bitcoin and what the next impulse might be. Will it go up to its maximum value? Or have we reached our point and now we will roll downwards? And this will greatly affect the price. Altcoins? So guys, look, let's see how Bitcoin has moved from our recent bottom where it was at $16,000. And here there is a very interesting pattern of movement where after those corrections it grew by 30% more each time. So look, we will now estimate its movement and see how much it will cost during the unloading. And when this unloading is finished for us, since in this cycle it will be quite difficult for a major player to unload Bitcoin in large quantities because it is no longer $5,000 or 10, but already more than 90, and this may take more time than before. In short, the lower zone is around $16,000. We were looking at Bitcoin on different exchanges. The price varied differently. On some it reached thousands of dollars. This is not so important. And after that we moved upwards with this kind of movement, with small stops which occurred before such longer accumulations. So look, the first stop, and we reach this stop from lower values, you could say, and if we measure this in percentage terms, then here, plus 57% for Bitcoin later, we fell to a small correction from below. From these lower indicators of the correctional arts party to the maximum values, to the locally maximum values. Again, we had plus 57%, meaning up 57% initially, and the next also 57%. After that, we had this kind of fluctuation as a continuation of accumulation in Bitcoin, and you understood, yes, this part is something intermediate before. This prolonged fluctuation, after which there is growth again, and guys, again an intermediate part before the reaccumulation in Bitcoin. And these parts, in previous videos, I already mentioned this. It was exactly a year ago as it was forming, and the previous ones, meaning the previous ones. In January it was forming, and the next one we see is also at the end of December, also in January. And if we look at these movements, guys, that occurred from the bottom of this prolonged correction, let's stretch them to the maximum values. We see here plus 94, plus 95%, which is approximately 35% higher. The movement was compared to the movement before that. That is, again, this intermediate small sideways movement that was there. And the next movement, most likely it was like this. Let's take it from the lowest to the peak. Values reached 92, 92, 6%. 92, 6%, 92, 6%, 92. That is approximately like here. Here it's 94%, to be a bit more precise. 94 and some change. Here, in short, on average, you could say 93%. This is more by 35% than it was before. Once again, after reaccumulation. And guys, the next move after reaccumulation, presumably it should be another 35% higher. Let's measure this. From the very lowest point of this reaccumulation, the correction that was there. We stretch it to the top and get here. 123% growth. And here we have up to this point approximately 92-93% growth plus around 30-35% results in approximately 123% growth. Next, this movement here. Moreover, if we switch to a regular chart, not a logarithmic one, we will see that the initial movements were quite tiny and the volatility was small, and the movements and corrections were also small. But the further it accelerated, the stronger the volatility became, and the corrections also became stronger. You see this, right? That is, these upward movements also increased. Therefore, the further we go, the stronger the movement. So look, now a 123% increase is 35% more than the previous ones. And it is quite likely, sir, that a small intermediate correction is happening again, a slight sideways movement. Moreover, it was also forming in January. Here we successfully captured December and January. February is ongoing for us. The main part came in January, just like a year ago. Right here in January, and exactly like 2 years ago, in this January, guys, if we remove all this, we will now construct the next percentage segment. Let's see where Bitcoin can reach in its maximum values. But if you look at the theoretical part, guys, I already mentioned in previous videos, yes, that we are growing according to these Peter Elliott waves. And eventually we will reach the unloading zone at Bitcoin's maximum value. Then we will start a bearish cycle, consisting of 3 Elliott waves. Well, and then the situation will continue in a few years, meaning our first wave was this. If you switch to the chart, this is part D, meaning we reached some local maximum values, followed by a corrective wave. The third wave is, again, impulsive, after the fourth corrective one. And most likely, the fifth wave from here, from the corrective one, has slightly changed for me, shifted. It is quite likely to go to maximum values. Moreover, between these waves, there are stop waves that occurred exactly every year, which is where we are now. And it is quite likely that with one more movement, we will be on to go higher up. And now we will measure, guys, what could these movements be if the last movement was plus 123%. First of all, I want to remind you that all corrections were up to the 0.382 levels according to Fibonacci. I will quickly lay it out for you now. Yes, this yellow segment, it equals 0.382 according to Fibonacci. Even when we initially started to grow and fell a bit below it, not just a bit, but noticeably, I'm significantly lower. But further, if you look, we reached local maximum values and also fell to, I have already shown this in my previous videos, but new people might be watching this and they might find it interesting. I am stretching the next movement. Again, according to FIBA, we reach local maximum values and fall to them to further stretching. Again, we reach maximum values, fall to. And now, guys, let's estimate where we might fall. And from this point, let's estimate these 123% growth and where we will end up. So we stretch the Fibonacci, right, from these lower corrections that were made. During the reaccumulation, E of Bitcoin to the maximum, local values, we see that up to this level, 0.382. We haven't reached it yet, and this level, Tesum, is around $87,000. And if we take approximately 123% from these total values as calculated, although the price might potentially go below this level at any given moment, considering that the price might currently drop from $95,000, it's quite likely that the price could already start rising from $95 in the near future. And we will calculate later from those lower indicators where we were not so long ago. But guys, potentially the price has always reached this level. According to FIBA, and possibly this time it will also reach it, and from there we will now measure 123 or 125% from this level as we did do before. Growth. And we see, guys, that we hit these percentages. This is 125%. I have now stretched it. Before this, our growth was, let's see, it seems to be about 120, 123%, 122%. Before, I measured a little more, up to 123%. Let's lower it a little bit. So 123% is our mark at 196,000 baht Thorbo per Bitcoin. In my previous videos, guys, I told you about this, that it's possible if Bitcoin goes up to these maximum values. This is actually my signal indicator. The cycle indicator, in which Bitcoin moves and has moved in the past in its previous cycles. Several cycles already. It moves like this, and so far this model hasn't broken. And I told you the targets, that we might reach the range of $180,000 or $200,000. And if we go to these maximum values, to $200,000, we might reach this round number. We might not quite reach it, because the big player understands that all the small investors set this target exactly up to $200,000. But, as often happens in trading, the price slightly falls short of these values and then drops down. So it turns out that the price might reach, for example, if you are waiting for $100,000 and you placed a limit, order to sell. Whether it's Bitcoin or something else, it might not reach. Well, not in this case, yes, generally speaking. The price, for example, reaches 99,800, as it happened a couple of cycles ago when everyone was waiting. Here, $20,000 per Bitcoin. But the price did not reach 20,000. It reached 9,500, 9,600. This was 2017, the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018. And it plummeted down, and a lot of people got caught off guard there. Therefore, here as well, if the price goes up with the same movements as it went up here before, then guys, I do not recommend waiting for the maximum value around exactly $200,000 and above. Obviously, anything can happen. This is, as they say, not financial advice. This is what I am telling you. As I will act, I will be selling in increments. And more than $200,000, I will keep a very small portion there, which I won't regret. If the price goes down, I will simply buy Bitcoin at the bottom in the next cycle and watch. That is, if you estimate that from $87,000, these 123% growth is a punch target of $195,000 per Bitcoin. This is the maximum value that squeezes can reach. And it's not necessary. Some kind of average unloading zone, the price might suddenly drop sharply down and the unloading might be much lower. No one knows this. And in the same way, you can determine, guys, the zone. The end of Bitcoin's movement, this time in Russian, specifically the moment when it will start going down. I focus on the extreme da moments, which is the end of this year 2025. Most likely it will be November to December. And I assume that the unloading will take quite some time, because Bitcoin has already gained a large mass. It is already not cheap, and at this moment, it's not that it will be at lower values, but from November, from December, it might start to drop just as it did in previous cycles. Here, Bitcoin reached its maximum values already in the second part of this indicator of mine. You could say unloading. And we can observe this before as well. Therefore, in our case, we can come here to the unloading and earlier. But it is quite likely that this unloading itself will drag on. Well, I think for 3 to 4 months or maybe even 5. And then there will be shifts from Bitcoin to altcoins and a full-fledged alt season will begin. Not just that it will begin, but I think there will already be some decent multipliers, and it will presumably start at the moment when Bitcoin goes even higher from these current values of ours. And now let's definitely, certainly, and indeed actually connect, guys, my signal indicators and see where Bitcoin might go in the near future. So, Bitcoin Adept buy and sell, updated indicator and 3-day chart. But this is a global chart. While we had a sell signal for buying, we currently have nothing. Let's switch to the daily chart. Most likely here, yes, there was already a sell signal on the previous candle. There is no other signal. We will now click on more local time frames. And this is the 8-hour one. Also, there was a sell signal. No signals. Currently, there is none. I am interested in that moment, yes. That moment has arrived. When on this candle, there is a buy signal. It is quite possible. Yes, with these movements, Bitcoin moves, and once again, having reached maximum values, it went down, and now a buy signal has appeared. and we will move to the opposite zone before a possible further move down. And from these lower values, fly upwards. Be sure to install for yourself. These are my signal indicators. There are about 8 of them in total. And monitor the market for Bitcoin movements. Well, for those who are too lazy to monitor, yes, to follow the indicators. Regarding the technical state of Bitcoin, join our trading chats. The video description explains how to do all this. That's all for now. Leave your comments. Does my theory have a place with this subsequent development? With a growth of 123% to the maximum values, or are these just my wild fantasies? I am interested to know. That's all for now. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you want to hear my daily thoughts on the price of Bitcoin and altcoins. Thanks to everyone who watched this video to the end. Goodbye.